Hey guys, I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Whether you're watching this in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening, I'm glad you're here. And I want to take a quick second to thank all the channel members. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you all more than you know. And I want to invite you guys, if it's your first time by or you've come by and hadn't had a chance yet, if you're so inclined, please hit that subscribe button and that bell notification icon next to it. I would really appreciate it. So today we're going to talk about imported knives in my collection that are overbuilt. And when I talk about imported knives that are overbuilt, imported knives that I can carry on my person. This is a size comparison knife, the Cold Steel 4 Max, and it's also a pack knife, a knife that I keep in my shoulder pack, and it's a great go-to. I need a folding chopper, but in all truth, I really don't put it in my pocket much. So this isn't going to be in my top 5 plus 1. Because if I was going to do just the top 5, I would have left out the plus 1. But if I left out the plus 1, I would have left out the TwoSun Vandal, which is Mr. Love Them Knives, Lee at Love Them Knives knife. I want to say it's the TwoSun TS. It could be the 346. I don't think it is the 346, but what I will do is I will put the model number along with the name, because this is the TwoSun Vandal. It's one of the TwoSuns that does have a distinct name. It's got this full 3/4 inch backspacer. It's got this super long M390 stonewash blade. You've got this nice carbon fiber inlay on both sides of this nicely milled and chamfered titanium frame. It is a button lock. The button lock is not one that I would go to banging because it will disengage. But if you're just using it under normal pressure, using it like you would and you were paying attention to that, to me, it's not a fatal flaw because I was aware of it early on. I was told about it. And again, does it make me want to get rid of the knife? No. Because again, I know the limitations of it. I know that it's limited. I know that it will fail if I go to banging around or if I happen to be working on a car chopping and I hit the hood. But for me, guys, it's carvings, fire. If I'm prepping firewood with this around the fire, feather sticking, I'm not going to be nervous about that blade at all. So coming in at number 6, or at honorable mention, if you want to take off the 1 and just look at this as my top 5 imported overbuilt knives, we have the TwoSun Vandal. Moving on is a great knife that I love to carry, and it is a little wide in the pocket, but on this knife and another knife that made this list, I'll order the Pops Etsy clips. So this is a Pops deep carry clip that goes in and out of pocket fantastically well, has great retention, does not cause too much of a hot spot on that knife. And the Cold Steel 8010, I don't know what I called this earlier, it's the Cold Steel 8010, is a knife that I just love. It is big, it is beefy, it is sharp, it will cut you if you let it drop and you don't have your finger as far forward as I do. It will come down and it'll slice into that finger. But you've got this full handled, full grip knife. And I'm not going to tell you I don't feel the pocket clip, but I'd rather have a deep carry clip and be able to feel it than have the clip that came on it that was maybe a little less impactful on my hands, but that's just because I'm a pansy. But this Cold Steel 8010 is in S35VN. It's the 8010, which was probably the most popular of the big cold steels that employed Andrew Demko's triad lock. This triad lock goes a step further than the traditional back lock in that you've got this little dugout hook that actually locks down into the tang. So I forget what the pressure tests on this knife came up to be finished with, or what they passed or where they broke. But I know I'll never put it through the excess that it needs to be broken or destroyed. For me, this is as overbuilt as I would ever need, and I'm happy to carry it. I'm stoked that I have it in my collection. It drops shut. I can middle finger flick it. It's just a great, great overbuilt knife. And that's the Cold Steel AD10 with the Pops deep carry clip at number 5. At number 4, we've got a unique one, and we've got my first introduction into the Maxace brand. This is the OG, the first Maxace Sandstorm K. There are much nicer variations of this knife. This knife, when I bought it, was $119. Has D2 or K112 steel, same thing. G10 liners, steel or G10 scales, and this huge K110 blade, these heavy steel liners, and this drop shut action that is literally a guillotine. And guys, this knife has an additional lockout that I can engage right here, that little knob that prevents me from undoing this liner lock. So then I have to go in here and I have to turn that to the open position so that I can get the liner lock out of the way. So when it locks up and you engage this liner lock, it pushes this into the back of the liner and you cannot push that out of the way. So it just gives you a little extra peace of mind that that big blade's not going to come down on you, because it is super sharp, super thin behind the edge, but still very thick spined, very full purchase on the hand. I could even use this as a two-handed implement if I needed to. And it's got a Slurpee Saver grip that's just, you know, next to none. So that is the Maxace Sandstorm K. I would love to get one of the big, super nice Sandstorms in the frame lock, but I just don't see it in my future because, again, this is more of a novelty knife, a knife that I love, a knife that has a special place in my collection. I can carry it, but I don't carry it a lot. So that is the Maxace Sandstorm K. Came in right around $100, and it is number 4. Moving on to number 3. Probably the biggest surprise, or almost the second biggest surprise in this group. This is a knife that was recommended to me by a buddy on Instagram or on YouTube. I don't exactly remember which, but this is a TwoSun. It is the TwoSun TS243. It's a Tucson Mokhtar design. It is 14C28N. When I saw it online, seeing the picture, I had no idea it was going to be this big, this thick of a knife. So we can look at it next to the Cold Steel AD10. It's a little bit thicker than the AD10. It's not going to be quite as long, but the blade stock is as thick. It is just an absolute hoss of a knife. It's carbon fiber on the handles, and it's got titanium liners that are very smooth. You've got a front flipper deployment. You've got a traditional flipper deployment. Again, you've got this nice belt satin blade. You've got nice sharpening choil here that gives you a lot of sharpenings. You've got a choke up choil, and just a knife that, even though this clip's probably the most clampy of the clips, it still works well, and I still carry this knife even though it's very thick. But the clip is probably the most minimal in the hand. And so when we're looking at our number 3, middle of the road, overbuilt, imported surprise knives, I would say the TwoSun TS243 is going to be the one that holds that spot. Very well refined knife, very, very rich and pretty carbon fiber, T8s all the way around. Just a well done knife. I like the low profile flipper in the back, flies open, front flipper's tuned, so the detent's just money for what it is as I fail it. So that's the TwoSun TS 243. So moving on, we come to number 2. Number 2 is another Cold Steel. This is, for me, even though it doesn't have as smooth of an action, it's my favorite cold steel because it employs Andrew Dimko's second really cool lock that I'm aware of, the Scorpion lock. And this is wearing M&K deep carry pocket clip. So it's also set up for deep carry. And this is the AD15. Let's see if I can get it to flip. Whoops. See if I can get it to middle finger flick. This is a little bit weirder because since you've got this Scorpion lock, which is what I really like about this knife, this lock puts a lot of pressure down on the blade. And when it opens up, it falls into that little void right there, into that channel. So when I just pull that channel back, that blade rotates down. So when I push this blade out, it's having to work against this bar right here. It's pushing it out. So you've got to get it started, but it will fly out there. You just got to give it that initial umph. But this knife is a very unique lock system. Again, the Scorpion lock it has this pressure on the pivot here, this strong spring that's forcing this part of the blade down. So when it locks in, you'll see this part of the blade fall shut. And that's giving you all the resistance to keep it from pushing out. So when you roll this out or when you flip it out, it comes around and then it locks down into there. So when you go to grip this knife and you're putting pressure on this knife and you're making hard cuts with this knife, you're further putting a clamp on that already solid lockup. And then when you're ready to disengage it, you just simply flip it out and you can one-hand it shut. And after you've played with this knife for a little while, as I just slammed the tip into my mat, once you've played with this knife a little while, it can become very, very fidgety. Thumb studs, but you can get the reverse flick. It's just a little trickier. Kind of got to smooth it out there. But at number 2, that is the Cold Steel 8015. So we had both the 8015 and the 8010 and the Cold Steel 4MAX show up as our overbuilt, over crazy knife. So that brings us to the final overbuilt surprise in my collection. And that would be no other than the TwoSun TS349 in D2. On the back spacer here, which is a full back spacer that's titanium, you've got TwoSun, you've got Night Morning Designs, maker's mark there. You've got this huge lanyard slip that actually is not putting a hole in the clip or in the side of the knife so it doesn't look crappy. You've got a really functional clip, has a little bit of rattle, but not when it's in your pocket. You've got T8 hardware all the way around. And you've got this big knife that is actually on washers. So this knife has super strong lockup. It is a frame lock. It's perfectly centered and it's on washers. So the ergonomics of this knife are next level, whether I get it in the regular grip or I take advantage of this very generous finger choil. I have got all types of different grips I can put on this knife like nobody's business. And yes, it's D2, but it's a huge slab of D2 that I'm pretty comfortable you could stab through a car door and not break. It came with this little pin that I keep back in the other room that allows you to screw it into here if you want to turn this into a frame lock equivalent, which we know that's not true, but it does give you another method of lockup. And that is the TwoSun TS346. So in recap, we had the TS346, we had our Cold Steel 8015, had our Sandstorm K, not in that order, had our TwoSun, and I'll put the number, this is the Tucson TS243. We had the AD10 from Cold Steel, and we had our TwoSun Vandal. So guys, let me know what your favorite overbuilt imported knives are. Let me know if I've left anything off. I'm sure they're better, bigger, overbuilt knives. I'm just pulling from my collection, but I thought this would be kind of a cool video to do. I'll do something similar with USA made knives. But guys, thank you, thank you, thank you for watching the video. Thank you for coming to my channel anytime. Thank you for those of you who subscribed. Thank you for all my channel members. Thank you for all of you. Please, if I could get you to do anything, it would be to look out for the guy or gal to your left. Look out for the guy or gal to your right. Look out for one another. Go forward with love in your heart. Choose debate, not hate. Guys, I love you all. I look forward to our next video. Until we meet again, which will be soon, peace.